Hey, everybody, welcome back to Sarge Talk TV. I'm Big Mike.
Normal size Jason.
That's right. Hey, guys, big news. We're finally monetized. I finally did the paperwork or the clicking and with Terry's help because,
Sergeant Major already threw it out there.
yeah, and we got our first super chat from MT Homestead. I don't know how that really works. I'm giving it, YouTube's taking part of it. It kept changing colors.
You're paying yourself to pay yourself.
That's right.
Well, we were just talking about, so, it's a good point to bring it up, right? They don't put ashtrays in cars nowadays. So what else are you going to do with what you would have typically filled your ashtray with? Just start super chatting your favorite YouTube channels.
That's right. Yeah. Who was that said they bought a pack of cigarettes? It was like 8.
Oh, I don't even. Oh, no, Jamie, a friend of mine saw that somebody had bought a pack and it was like $8.93, and I think she lives in one of the Carolina.
Oh, that's crazy.
Oh, they are here. Like, we went when family and stuff visit and go into town here. That's why most of them, when they come, we're like going to Missouri. It's closer anyways. But yeah, to buy them, they're $8 to $10 a pack here in Arkansas.
Oh, wow.
For like the name brand stuff. I mean,
I'm sure name brand. So the cigarettes they make when they sweep the floors.
Right. That stuff's probably still $2 or $3 a pack, but
yeah,
like to go buy Marlboros, yeah, you're looking at $8 to $10 a pack.
Oh, wow. Well, I never had the pleasure of buying cigarettes in my life, so I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you, Chew, our nemesis, right? Even Grizzly here in Arkansas is $7-8 a can, or well, it's $5 to $6. I think I paid one time. I'd run completely out, and I went to Dollar General, and it was like $8 a can. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
Well, I will tell you that I dipped Copenhagen since I was 13 years old, right? Since I was 13. And I know this is totally off the subject what we're going to talk about tonight. But
our subjects are never off. We're always
now here in Oklahoma, a can of Chew is $8 of Copenhagen is $8.99. And you buy it in a 5-pack roll. So it's over 40, 45 bucks, whatever. Then you got the tax and all that stuff on top of all that. So, but then you go to Missouri and it's only $5.25 a can.
Yeah. Well, what shocked me was we would go up to Missouri because we're so close to buy our tobacco. And our son at the time that moved here was chewing like Copenhagen mint or something. Yeah. So it's like people should pay them to chew that stuff. But his 5 cans of Copenhagen were $2 cheaper than my 5 cans of Grizzly.
Oh, wow.
But I've switched to a different brand, Brother Dale at 9 Acres. When they came to visit, he's like, dude, try this Derringer. It's, it's not as great. I'll give it to it. But for 10 cans, it's like $18 and some change.
Yeah.
I'll be in on that one.
Well, I will tell you that when I retired, I said, man, I can't keep doing this. So then someone says, hey, you got to go to Choctaw Nation because they have gas stations and casinos and gas stations all in one. And so I switched to a thing called Longhorn.
Oh, yeah.
And Longhorn for a log, 5 cans of Longhorn with tax is only $11.99. Now, it did take some getting used to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
that's the way it was because this Derringer, it says long cut, but it's fine cut. Like, so I was like, do I really want to deal with that? But
so right now, I've been dipping for 50 years exactly now because 51 years because I'm I'm 64 now. So anyway, hey, so here's what we're gonna bring to you tonight, guys.
Hey, welcome to Sergeant's Talk.
Yeah,
Hey,
welcome to the channel.
stuff. This is what we talk about. We got important priorities. It's like we're on a deployment. We're just going to talk about the most
we got a
random things.
lot to cover, and so if we don't get to everybody, we'll say hello as we go and stuff like that. But we're going to talk about the 5, 10, and 20-year rules for VA disability claims. And if you didn't know there were rules where they can check up on you and make you go do a CMP exam, because I had to do one for my back. Because they go, wow, how'd we miss this guy? We're at the 20-year rule. No, you're at the 25-year, and there is no 25-year rule. So they got me in there, and they said, you're still tore up from the floor up, and we'll see what comes from that. And the doctor I went to, and I found out that the guy isn't an orthopedic surgeon or anything like that. He's an MD. He used to be in the Navy, and Optimum that's one of their guys in my area. So everybody goes to this guy, and he just fills out a check sheet and then writes it all up and sends it back in there and tells them, hey, doesn't seem like he's too messed up, or he's worse than he used to be. So anyway, so we're going to talk about that tonight. Again, we are now monetized. And if you've not heard, the purpose behind our monetization is to support the McAllister veteran shelter that they have here. They have a men's shelter, and then they have a military veterans section of this shelter, and it's a good reason, because they can get funding, partial funding, for the number of beds that they fill with veterans and stuff like that. Now, it is one of those things that they run a thrift store in this thing to raise money, because it's not covering all the bills. And a friend of mine who's a veteran, he actually runs the shelter while still pulling down a full-time job on base. But he's dedicated to it. And my thought was to give it to some veterans organization. Now, yeah, you could give it to Tunnels to Tower. You could give it to all these names, but they all make millions and millions of dollars from people and stuff like that. And it's those little small veterans organizations that are the ones who need help, who actually touch homeless vets and stuff like that. So,
well, and it makes a difference. Shameless plug, but Tara and I just put a video out today on our main channel at White Rock about going to thrift stores and why we chose the ones that we did. And the whole point and purpose, when Mike and I talked about, starting this channel, and if we were ever to get monetized, that it would go to this, because, it is a local community service that you're providing,
Yeah.
For something to go out into the nationwide. Okay, well, do you really know where that money goes? Like,
Right.
Why not, if you can control putting it into your local community and helping your local vets? And if it grows beyond that and you can reach out to more, then great.
Yeah.
But our priority, as people, right? And for us being veterans, I want to help my neighbor veteran before I help somebody in the next state over, next county over. I want to help who's in my local area. And that was a big reason why we chose that anything made from this channel, whether it's from the views, from super chats, super stickers, any of that stuff, 100% of it goes right to the McAllister Veterans Clinic or home.
Yeah, shelter. So yeah, and if you have one in your area, please support them. Whether it's with your time, whether it's with whatever you can help them with. I mean, our veteran shelter even takes chicken eggs from all the farmers and stuff like that. They go down there and they give them so they can feed people and stuff like that. And some people I know will go shopping and buy a few extra things and just drop off a sack. It could be kidney beans, black beans, it could be whatever, and they help them out that way too. So any little bit helps. And it kind of hurts my heart that, there's a lot of people who choose to be homeless. And there's some people that ended up that way because, like I always tell people, one bad decision or one whatever you're doing could either make you or break you. And being homeless is something that we can all support. Number one, we can take care of our homeless veterans a lot better with all this money they're finding through Doge.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But you'll find out all the money they're saving will go to something else. You know what I mean? So that's just the sad part of it. But hey, let's see who's in here real quick. I see Scott over there at Scott Spencer, and you have an update. He's doing something for veterans at the meetup, right?
So he's got, I think, last I talked to him, this amazing veteran window memorial type deal. Scott Spencer is the one that made that. And there's about 6, I think he said. Scott, I know you're in chat, but last him and I talked, there's probably about 6 of them that I'm going to be bringing to the Mid-America meetup to present to some of our veterans that we know are coming or going to it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so he makes these. We've got I know there was some contact info, but you can find them on Facebook. And there was a lot of people that did reach out because obviously everybody loves this plaque, and Scott is an amazing man, super talented, and this is his part of supporting us veterans, giving us something that we can hang on our wall and have a great memory. So I know we did the guys fishing trip. That's where I got mine. I know Anthony at CRC got one, and I think Tim Bridge Life, right?
Yeah.
Was he the third? I'm pretty sure it was Tim. So
Yep.
we had got him, but there's about at least 6 more veterans that we know are going to be at the meetup that
Yep.
will also be getting those. Tara and I are going to be bringing those to the Mid-America.
Hello, Abby G. Good to see you. And there's Anna Bohr.
Then I see Randall Gypsy Trails made it in. He said he got his claim in, so that's awesome, brother. Glad you're getting that done.
There's Ace. Rick Smith over at Veterans Landing.
And Ricky Smith already has one of these.
All right. Let's see. I'm scrolling. People saying hello to each other. I see
I don't know.
Angie.
There's Angie.
Angie, our favorite VA nurse, working hard for our veterans. There's Linda Peterson. Wanda Henry up in Canada land.
Good to see you in here, Wanda.
Scrolling. Tony R. Cabin in the Woods. He's here. And he was on my Monday morning talk with Mike. 8:30 on Mondays and Fridays.
I was going to say, you're doing that Mondays and Fridays. I got your message about doing it, and you were about halfway through your live when I woke up.
Oh, okay.
And I went, I got to have coffee first. Like
Jennifer Ocean Homestead.
Me too, Jason.
Yeah. There's Debbie Droth. Let's see. I'm scrolling as fast as I can because we got a lot to cover.
Yeah, I'm going to let you cover the hellos because I don't know where you're at with it. I kind of got sidetracked with the plaque thing. So,
Yep, there's Gypsy Trails.
Oh, All right, I'm going to jump to the bottom a minute. Scott does say yes. There's 4 for sure that are getting delivered for veterans, and then 2 are going to be donated to the meetup as a giveaway.
Okay, good.
So I guess you all get information that 2 of these are going to get donated for Mid-America giveaway.
Thank you, Scott.
Not being a U.S. citizen, wasn't sure if this channel would fit for me, but since I know many U.S. vets, I thought it would come in. Okay, well, I'm glad you're here.
And even, yes, Wanda, like we talk about because we're U.S. veterans, right? But veterans deal with the same issues no matter what country they're in.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And there's my favorite female Marine, Dawn, over at our flipping farmstead. Let's see.
See, Cuddly Texan Patrick made it in. Says I'm always sidetracked. I only sidetrack most of the time.
There's Ray Castile. Good to see you. There's Cuddly Texan, yeah. And I'm at the bottom. All right, good. So, hey, the 5-year rule. We'll start off with the 5-year rule. The 5-year rule for veterans disability claims. One of the first steps in the veterans disability claim process is typically to submit to a C&P exam for whatever the claim is about. A VA healthcare provider will document your injury. They also collect information about your military service that caused it, which makes it service connected.
Right. So from there, the VA is going to decide whether you qualify for disability benefits and what your disability rating is. We talked about that in previous episodes of based on what your percentage of disability rating is, what benefits you can qualify for. After the original C&P evaluation, the VA has 5 years to request a follow-up exam called a routine future examination.
Yep. This is known as the 5-year rule. The purpose of an additional assessment is to ascertain whether your disability has improved. Depending on the VA's finding, your disability rating and corresponding benefits may be adjusted. Okay, so anytime when it hits that 5 years, they can say, hey, let's recheck them. Big Mike didn't get one at 5, 10, 15. He didn't get one until 25 years. But we did one, and luckily I'm still tore up from the floor up.
And I'll have to say that was a little hard pill to swallow the other day. I was driving around and realized that I've been retired for 10 years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, hold on. Wait a minute. No, not 10 years. Like, where did the time go? And maybe because I've changed clinics, like I haven't went in even in the last 10 years for a reevaluation, but I did change states. So I don't know that that's going to kind of reset it.
So it can kind of get lost in the shuffle because each time you go to a new state, you had to do an application and everything to be registered in that state so that VA in that state can take care of you.
Yeah. So exemptions to the 5-year rule that prohibit the VA from reassessing certain injuries. The 5-year rule does not apply in every circumstance. First, the VA must reasonably expect that the disability in question will materially improve. Then it can invoke the 5-year rule and request a follow-up medical evaluation.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, I precursored, before reading that with, I haven't been reevaluated, but my conditions are not conditions that are going to make improvement.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I mean, if you got hearing loss doesn't fix itself. Now they can support that with hearing aids and stuff like that, surgeries and stuff like that. And it may improve, it may not improve. It's kind of like tinnitus. Tinnitus is a 10% disability, and that's it. Now, you can go up to, I think they said 30%, and that's the max for hearing loss. Because you can go from the ringing in your ear that keeps you from going to sleep at night, gives me massive headaches all the time. Like right now, because I have the hearing aids in, and it's for high pitched noise, the tinnitus isn't stifled from it. It's still there. That ringing is still in my head. And I wake up all the time, and it's just like, I don't know what this, it's like an electric buzz inside my brain all the time. So,
well, and that's where I found, like with mine, it was funny because when I went in to do my sleep study, they had said, hey, you go in and see the doctors and stuff beforehand. And they're like, all right, here's the habits you need to change. Don't have a TV on at night. Like, no noise in your room. Don't do all this stuff. But if I don't have that ambient white noise, then that's all that I hear is that ringing.
Yeah.
And then you're focusing on the ringing, even though you don't want to, but you're sleeping and that's all you hear. So you need that white noise,
right,
to kind of knock it out. All right, real quick. So Neil's asking about, says his memory's bad. Can he explain the crayon thing? Well, the crayon deal is Marines are strong, but not so smart typically. So we are known as the Crayon Eater Service.
That's right.
And we're proud of it.
Hey, so under this exemption, 5-year exemption, there are some cases where conducting a second exam to check for improvement would be pointless. The 5-year rule excludes causes like these. For example, consider a situation where a veteran has lost their leg in combat. Would be like really stupid to say, hey, let's do another CMP exam or a follow-up one to see if the leg grew back. Now, if he's amphibious, maybe he could, but a human being's not going to grow a leg. So in that situation, a loss of a limb, some phalanges or whatever is not going to improve whatsoever. Even if you do, get a prosthetic, it doesn't, it may improve your quality of life from not having a leg to having a prosthetic, but it's not going to fix the problem of missing something. Yeah.
Yeah. So although the injury does not render them completely incapacitated, I mean, you could be missing limbs and still function. The VA still labels it as a permanent disability. They'll never regain the function of the missing leg. Therefore, the VA would not have the right to seek another exam under the 5-year rule because the condition won't improve.
Right.
So it doesn't make you completely immobile. Like, you can get a prosthetic, but you're not going to get your original leg back.
Right. Now, I think that there are certain things, it could be improving on your vision, or it could be your sciatic nerve because your legs go numb and you go through treatment or whatever, a surgery, and then all of a sudden, wow, that's what my legs feel like. And things like that, they could do that. Your sleep apnea could improve. And I know one thing that I read something about, they have this implant now that they can implant. And I guess you use your cell phone and you activate it for sleep mode or whatever. And I don't know how all that works. But there is a lot of people with sleep apnea after serving. It's crazy how many people actually suffer from sleep apnea. I think we did a video on there and all the health risk that comes with not getting, REM sleep. And that's something I don't have. I've not had REM sleep in so many years. Now I do briefly, like yesterday, I don't know what it was. Every 2 hours, I was wide awake. but I remember dreaming something. But 2 hours doesn't replace 8 hours to 10 hours of REM sleep. You know what I mean? So yeah. And every time I've had 5 sleep studies over 25 years, and they've gotten worse each and every time I go back in. So that's kind of screwed up. If a service-related disability irreparable impairs a veteran's ability to function, the VA calls it a permanent and total disability. These types of cases are also not subject to a VA's 5-year rule. So, okay, like we talked about, you losing a limb, whatever, total loss in one side of your hearing, none of that. Those are all considered permanent losses because the sound goes in, bounces off your ear, and you don't hear nothing, and stuff like that. So,
yeah. So moving on from the 5, there's a 10-year rule. So veterans who have a disability rating for at least 10 years are protected from the VA taking certain actions. The 10-year rule says that the VA cannot revoke a veteran's disability rating if they have had it for a decade or more.
yes, they can't take it. Now, they may, if whatever the affliction is, and let's say you improve, you still keep the service-connected disability. However, they could say, well, it doesn't really deserve a 30% rating now, and so you're going to have a 10% rating instead of a 20 or 30 or whatever the case is. They just can't get rid of the disability altogether. Right. So yeah, just remember that. That means that the VA has to offer the vet some level of benefits, although they are limited exceptions. Also, the 10-year rule is a moot point, not a moo point, a moot point for the upset of veterans' disability claims. Okay. Again, that just tells you that it may improve, but it will never go away. It'll always be in there as a service-connected disability. Okay.
Yeah. So the VA can't retract the disability rating of a vet with a permanent disability designation or a permanent and total disability status because their conditions won't change. This protects their access to 100% disability benefits like special monthly compensation.
Yeah.
And that is something that I know we hadn't talked about a whole lot really, but throwing it in here was you could be 100% disabled or any other, by the 10% ratings, and not have a permanent and total disability status.
Right.
Like, I was at 90 from the time I retired, and they had none of the conditions were considered a permanent and total disability status.
Right.
But then when I went in and got reevaluated and was able to get it bumped up to the 100%, then they put it as a permanent and total disability.
Right.
So that kind of locks it into where, like, hey, once you're in there, you're on it. And that's where, if you're one that's looking at getting claims or trying to support somebody going to get a claim, if that condition is really like detrimental to their everyday lifestyle,
right,
they need to look at getting that status improved to the permanent and total disability status.
And then you have to look at it this way: if they're not permanent disabilities, for an example, when I got out, when I got all my paperwork and everything like that, it came to like 143 points. And I'm going, and then they gave me a 60% rating because that's VA math.
Yeah.
Okay. Because some of them were not permanent disabilities. And so if you have, let's look at it this way. If you really do the math, you almost have to have 200% on all kinds of stuff wrong with you in order for them to move that down and you getting your 100% rating. And if, again, like you said, it doesn't have to be permanent, okay, to get 100%. But that's just the way the math does. And there's a video, and I've got to get a copy of that. And they actually tell you how the math is calculated. And you look at it and you go, what the heck? And if you ever did any accounting for the government, it makes perfect sense. Okay, because accounting in the government is not like you went to accounting school and you're working for some big, Fortune 500 company doing accounting. Government accounting is not like that. It's ridiculous how they figure all this stuff out and why they do that. Maybe that's why we're so far in the hole, because the accounting is basically a cover up, in my view. Okay,
Yeah.
I had to deal with that for 20 plus years on the civilian side. So who knows? All right. So exemptions to the 10-year rule that allow the VA to cut your benefits. Okay. There are a few situations where the VA can alter a long-standing disability rating. The first is if the VA finds out that you committed fraud in order to qualify for your disability benefits. Guys, that's a bad thing, because when they find out, they take it all. Okay. Mm-hmm. For example, I'm just going to give, and it has nothing to do with fraud, or they could perceive it as fraud, is I was married. I had children. So there's a different compensation for being married and for having kids and stuff like that, rather than just being a single person out on the street with a disability. Okay. And so I got divorced and I didn't think nothing about it. Right. Then I married Terry later on. I think it was like 9 years later. I was single, and 9 or 10 years later. And then I said, well, I need to get her registered in here. So I got her registered in here. And when I changed my DEERS, they're going, whoa, wait a minute. And then the VA contacted me and they said, hey, where's this person at? Okay. And I go, well, we got divorced back here. And they're going, you never notified us. So the amount I got for being married, okay, with that dependent, they made me pay all that back. And it wasn't, hey, let's work out something so we take something. They took it all until it was all paid off. Every check until it was paid off, the VA took it all, each and every month. So one thing you got to remember, if your status changes and you've got kids and they're out of the house and they're over the age of 21 and you're not carrying them on your insurance or whatever the case is, you have to report that to the VA. If you get divorced and you're not married no more because there's a different monetary value to it and you don't report it and they find out about it, it's just like in their mind, hey, this guy committed fraud. We're going to take all the money. So then I got married again and it went back to where it was again, being a veteran who's married and so on and so forth. So but they took it all. It came out to like the little difference between being married and not being married came out to like $9,700 and something. I said, oh, and they were not kidding. They just took it. So.
Yeah, so fraud could include providing false information on medical documents or exaggerating the extent of your injuries, fabricating a connection between your military service and the disability you're claiming is also fraud.
Yes.
And so I kind of want to throw this clarification in there because I know we've talked about it before. When you're going in and talking about a claim, when you're submitting it, today you might feel great and everything is awesome. But what you want to talk to your rep, whether it's your doctor or, somebody at one of the CMP exams, you need to explain the conditions based on your worst time and how frequent that happens.
Right.
Because that was a big question that I've gotten. Was like, well, how are you 100% disabled? We watch everything happen on YouTube and you're doing all this stuff. And yes, that's great. But also YouTube is editing. I don't put out the days that I'm stuck in bed for 3, 4, 5 days at a time because I did something and it threw my back out and I couldn't get adjustments.
Right.
And so when you go in and not untypically, right, you go in to see your examiner and you're feeling good that day. They're like, oh, you can bend all the way over. You can do all these things. You're right. I can today. But if I would have came in tomorrow, I couldn't do none of that. But, so keeping in mind, like, you don't want to just go in and lie and say, hey, I've got a condition that I don't have. Right. That's just not okay.
Right.
But to give them the symptoms, even though you're not feeling them that day, explain those symptoms when you were at your worst condition.
Right. So, and it's like when I went in for my back, I took no pain medication whatsoever that morning or anything like that. I went in there raw. Okay. So just remember that. I mean,
yeah,
there is substance that you can take to make it through the day, and you might do better on a CMP exam. My suggestion is, hey, go in there raw. Don't take anything and give them your honest response to the different motions and stuff like that that they want you to do, so they can prove, oh yeah, well he can bend over the way, yeah, because I was stoned out of my brain, and the VA's good about that. Okay, quality of life through pharmaceuticals that's not a way to live. Trust me. And they hand it out like candy. I ain't gonna lie to you, like candy. Let's see. The second is your service-related disability has measurably improved enough to warrant different disability ratings. At that point, the VA can reduce your disability rating and benefits in accordance with your level of disability. Okay. So if you go in there all doped up, okay, and you do fine on your CMP, is that honest? Yeah, it's honest in the fact that the drugs are making your quality of life either a little or a lot better. But get off of them, okay, and now how do you feel? Well, then you're right back to where you started from, or even worse, because I don't know how many people's gone to the VA and they're going, well, it's not really helping, so they just up the dose. Where you can't even drive a car because you're going to fall asleep and you're going to kill yourself, and they'd be off the hook for pain because you're dead. Okay.
Right.
Or do you have to take muscle relaxers just to go to bed at night? And then you wake up in such a fog, you know what I mean? You're in such a fog that they got this one thing I have to take when it gets so bad, and I won't take it unless it's really, really so bad that just laying flat on your back hurts. It's called cyclo something benzene or something like that. But when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to tell you something. It is just like you have the worst hangover you've ever had in your life afterwards. So it's bad.
Well, and that was when I first started going in for my sleep studies. Now, mind you, I was still on active duty. And that's where I found out, like, luckily I was in a school status, so I'm already non-deployable. But if I would have got diagnosed with that while I was in an active duty unit, that could have been career ending to get to get diagnosed with sleep apnea, because it makes you non-deployable.
Right.
But part of that initial process was I had to take Ambien for a while. And holy moly, like I watched Marines that were coming back from deployments and having PTSD and TBI issues, and Ambien was the only way they could sleep, but they still functioned. And it scared the crap out of me for them to put me on Ambien.
Well, I will tell you that I read a thing when I was doing that sleep study video that being on a sleep thing and having sleep apnea because you stop breathing and stuff ain't a smart move.
Yeah.
It's not a smart move, because if you wake up because you stop breathing. Now, if you don't wake up when you stop breathing, do you continue to stop breathing?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's
and that was
your body's alarm clock. Hey, wake up! You're about to die. You know what I mean? Because you're sitting there.
The body's natural fight or flight mode.
There's a comedian called Joe Coy. One of his Netflix specials, he does one, even though it's kind of crude, it's actually true. The faces people make when they stop breathing, the gasping and the choking and stuff like that, it's kind of scary if you have a severe case of sleep apnea.
Yeah.
Okay. So check out Joe Coy, because he was doing it with a guy in the audience because his girlfriend says, yeah, he's got sleep apnea. And he said, this is what you look like to her. And it's funny. If you got sleep apnea, you can relate to it. Okay. I'm not trying to be, not be empathetic or anything like that, because I've got it. So,
but it's things that you don't.
The rules is if you have it, you can tell a joke about it.
Yeah.
So I guess it's okay.
Right. Yeah. I have no worries. I have a CPAP every single night, and every time I put it on, I can't not think about Luke, I am your father. Like, you just can't not do that in your head. And but yeah, when you start seeing the serious effects of having it, and you don't realize it, because, well, you're trying to sleep, but you're not sleeping. And then you see the effects the next day. So, so the 20-year rule for veteran disability claims, a veteran who has held a disability rating for 20 years has reached a continuous status for their rating. After receiving veterans disability benefits for at least 20 years, the VA can't diminish it beyond the current amount.
Yeah. Yeah. Under the 20-year rule.
Yeah.
Once you hit 20, and that's what I was kind of thinking about. Hey, they want me, I'm at 25 years. What are they going to do? Say, hey, your back seems like it's doing a lot better, because you did have a surgery back in 2013 where when they did the x-ray and the MRI, I had you ever see the trees in the woods with the round ball in the middle?
Oh, the burls. Yeah.
That's what my back looked like, and it was all calcium buildup, and that's why I couldn't feel my legs, because it was pinching off the sciatica, all that calcium buildup. So that's why I had that 8-hour surgery to get rid of all that stuff, reroute my sciatica, but it's all coming back again because I don't have. I got degenerative joint disease, which means there is no cushion anymore in between my L3, 4, and 5 and S1. And the calcium, my body is building this up so it protects the vertebrae in my back. So, and when I bend over, I can feel it crunch, or when I lean back, I can feel it crunch. And the same thing with my knees and my hips were doing that till I got the hip replacement. So hence I got to have both knees done too. So yeah, it's crazy. All right. So I'm up, right?
Yep.
Okay. So whatever disability rating you had during that time becomes the minimum amount the VA must use to allocate your benefits according to the 20-year rule. Again, veterans with a permanent and total disability rating don't have to worry about the 20-year rule at all. So there you go.
Yeah. And then the 20-year rule has the same major exemption as the 10-year rule. If you make a fraudulent VA claim to secure benefits, the VA does not have to abide by the terms of the 20-year rule after the time has passed.
Yeah. So always be honest. Don't fudge your numbers. Don't fudge your pain. Just make sure that you are totally honest, because if it comes back and bites you, they're going to come back and bite you hard. Okay. Yeah. It isn't like a dog barking. This is a dog that bites. So if they find out that you lied about it and you say, hey, I've got all this stuff, and then all of a sudden someone's going, hey, look at Mike out there. He's skiing the slopes over in Colorado and stuff like that. First of all, Mike don't ski, number one. But I'm just giving you a situation. I'm out on a black diamond and I'm cutting snow like nobody's business. Why are you doing this when you saying you got bad knees, you got bad hips, you got a bad back, you got bad feet, blah, 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 and you're out there cutting it up on the black diamond. Okay. Remember, it's somebody told me this a long time ago. If you don't want anybody to know something, don't tell anybody. Okay. And don't sit there and have a channel and say, don't do this and don't do that. And then you go out and do it. Okay. I'm pretty sure there's people that watch the channel that aren't my bestest of friends in the whole world. Okay. And stuff like that. We all have people in our lives that are just not that close to you, and they would do anything to hurt you. So you can't be some kind of parent guide channel, and then in the background you're whooping the dog crap out of your kids and stuff like that. Somebody's going to turn you in, okay? Or you're the president of MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and then you go out and get a DUI because you're drunk driving. Everybody points your fingers then, okay? It's the same thing with fraud. Once they catch fraud, okay, you're through, okay? Yeah. And they're going to want all that back. Trust me. Don't report a divorce to the VA, because as soon as they find out about it, you're going to pay it all back. So, hey, we got Mr. International. All right. The $9.99. That is our second super chat. And if you didn't hear it in the beginning, guys, we are now monetized. So, and all monetization that we have will go to the McAllister Veterans Homeless Shelter. That's what we plan on doing with that. If you would like an a Sergeant's Talk TV merch or anything like that, coffee cup or whatever, it is in the MT Homestead merch store. So if you go to MT Homestead, go to the About page, go down to where it says merch store, click on there, and you can get your very own Sergeant's Talk TV t-shirt or coffee cup on there. We have certain ones. We've got sleeveless ones, which you'd probably love. The sleeveless shirts and stuff like that are now available on the site also.
I just cut mine off, so.
Well, yeah, it's cheaper too, because a sleeveless shirt that's all sewn and all that costs more than a regular t-shirt.
Well, and they don't have, for me, like everyone had asked, like, why don't you just go buy the ones? Well, they don't have, I need them cut a certain way, like for it to fit right. And like, so it's like, I'll just buy the t-shirt, and I've got my method of cutting the sleeves off, and it fits more comfortable than buying, because I bought the ones without, that are pre-made, and they're all hemmed up and have a seam, and they don't fit the same.
Something happened.
What?
I don't know. My other computer went black. I didn't know if we lost the channel or not.
It says we're still live.
Oh, okay, it came back on.
But yeah, and guys, that's the biggest thing of all this, right? Like we're out here. We want you to get yourself, your family members, your friends, any veteran you know that isn't getting services through the VA, to go and get services. Like if they're not, then they're wrong. They need to be going to get some sort of service through the VA. But it doesn't mean to falsify. Like that was one of my biggest fears and concerns, even going through the process when I did an outside source to get, my larger rating. I said, I'm not going to lie about a condition I don't have. Like
Right.
I'm not going to put that on there because if anybody was going to get audited, like I got audited several times, while I was active duty. And then once I retired, my S1 decided they were going to, instead of giving me PTAD days, they gave me leave days, which meant they paid me a whole lot more. And they're like, that's our, little gift of you retiring. Yeah, that gift came back and bit me in the rear end. And, luckily I was able to make payments back on it. And they didn't just yank all of my pay at once.
Right.
But, it's one of those that if you go in there and do it falsely, you're going to get audited or caught at some point. And a lot of it is based on those conditions. Like if you have a condition, the big one that I'd seen through a lot of this was getting that permanent and total disability. Now, if you don't have that condition, and permanent and total doesn't guarantee you're 100% either. You can have it at 50, 60, 70. Like you can have a permanent disability based on that condition without being 100%. So that's not a guarantee either.
Yeah. And then if you want to learn more about this subject,
Right answer.
this was just a down and dirty. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot you can learn. This is just a down and dirty. There's a website, and it's in the description down there, Vet Law. Go in there and check them out. Go to the VA at va.gov and check them out and look and search for 5-year rule, 10-year rule, whatever applies to you. If you're coming up on 5 years, study about the 5-year rule in case they come up to you and say, hey, we want to reevaluate you. Same thing with your 10 and your 20-year rule. So please do that. Nobody can be an advocate for you better than you can. Okay. And I encourage you to do your homework, do your due diligence, and find out for yourself. There's a lot of channels out there, guys. There's a lot of channels that want you to click on it and you'll see something like, oh my gosh, the VA is falling apart and your benefits are at risk and stuff like that. Do your research. It's just like the fake news. There's fake channels out there that just want you to click on that, and they're not going to give you the honest to God truth. Now, whether it's to build their channel or to do whatever, all we're doing is giving you information to make you dangerous. And hopefully you'll take that information and make yourself even smarter as you go along with your relationship with the VA. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's all about that information. And I mean, we're giving you what we've found and researched. And then what we've personally experienced. And I know there's a lot of people that have gotten different experiences through that, but that's what we've done. And, for me, I've been to multiple clinics. Oh, Dawn's comment. Yeah, I said where I don't get.
That's her way of saying she's got PTSD.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I don't know, it was a couple of videos ago or whatever. Like my uncle went in to go get his Social Security disability because he was already getting VA, he was getting everything else, but he wasn't at the age to get his regular Social Security. And he went in there, and yeah, his counselor put it on his paperwork for through Social Security. Does not get along with others.
Yeah, I don't know. The one thing that I am clear is when you file your intent, for on a claim and stuff like that. It could take 6 months, 8 months, a year. Now, one thing I'm going to tell you something is I watched Doug Collins on some channel, and he was still talking about clearing claims faster than ever. Well, how slow were you before? If you're clearing them faster than ever, now it could be by a day, and that's faster than ever. Okay. And I put a comment in there under Sergeant's Talk TV. I said, whoa, slow your roll, Doug. Okay. You've only been in there a month or two or whatever, however long you've been in there. Okay. Is once you submit your claim, not your file into your intent to file, but when you actually dropped all your paperwork for the claim, is 6 months fast. To a veteran, it's not fast. Okay? It's not fast. Trust me. Is 8 months, is 10 months, is a year. Well, if you go a year, you've already hit your intent to file date. Okay? But the file date is there, the 1 year is there, not for them to finish your claim. It's for you to have all your documents to them. Now, they may come back to me, and because it's been over 8 months, okay, and they'll say, hey, we need this. We're in the decision mode, but somebody wants this. Can you give it to me? Well, I can't think of anything that I should give you because my doctor seen me. She gave me a referral to a specialist, orthopedic specialist. They took the MRIs and the x-rays and all that, sent it to the VA. So I didn't have to submit that because they already have that. And then the VA looks at it and says, oh my gosh, you are tore up and you need surgery. So they cut an order. Okay. So they cut the order that tells, hey, you're going to use this doctor because that's the one you asked for on our list at the Muskogee VA. And he's going to do both of your hips, and he's got from this time frame to this time frame to do it. And you have to have all your recovery done, all your PT sessions and your home health care nurse, all that stuff done. Okay. And you send that all back. So they get all this stuff that they requested, the surgery, the doctor's write-up from the surgery, all that stuff. And then they say, hey, let's get a third party and do a CMP on you to a guy who's not an orthopedic surgeon. He's just a guy at some health clinic in some podunk town in Oklahoma, but he's in the Optimum network. So they say he's the nearest guy, so go there. And he's looking through a checklist, and he don't know this. He's looking at it like a pig looking at a wristwatch, and he's got to ask me these questions, and he don't know what he's doing. In my mind, he's just asking the questions on there, and he's going to write down exactly what I tell him or what he finds and stuff like that. So it's not like I went out and I said, hey, I'm going to get a doctor and I'm going to have surgery and then I'm going to give all this stuff. The VA has been in the loop on this from day one. Okay. From day one. And then it takes that long to do it. I said, well, I told the lady, I called the 1000 number again. And I said, hey, so who's the guy that's doing my paperwork? Who's the guy? Because nobody's ever contacted me other than me contacting them. I said, who's the guy? Well, I don't know. I said, you sure you don't know? I'm pretty sure somewhere in that file you're looking at right now with all my information, it had to be assigned to somebody. So don't tell me that, because I've worked for the government for 45 years and I know we don't do it like that. We have a paper trail. Okay. We have a paper trail. They don't just let some Yahoo cowboy off the side, run and gun with people's paperwork and stuff like that. I said, you can't tell me that. And I said, well, I've got Doug Collins's government email. Let me email him and see if he can tell me, because faster than ever, I don't know what that means. and somebody needs to tell me what that actually means. So I get upset with them just like everybody else, but I get it. They have to play within the rules. Okay. They have to do it. And it just gets frustrating on the veterans end and stuff like that. Cause veterans, they're capable of going postal, it's a proven
and
fact.
I think one of the hardest parts too, I mean, the waiting game is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Which we spend all of our time in service, hurry up and wait, right? You get there and then you just spend hours waiting on a commander to come out to do the formation or getting word or whatever. And you would think we're accustomed to it, but then you get more aggravated that why am I here 4 hours before I need to be, for a formation? And it's no different as veterans. Like, we want instant answers. They're telling us that they're going to give us something better. And I'd gotten aggravated when I retired because they told me that, well, if you submit everything while you're still on active duty, it's going to give you priority. You're going to bump to the top of the list. And when you get out and you do your initial exam and you go do or your initial visit with the VA clinic, you're going to get right in. They're going to give you answers right away. And it was still like 6 months before I got answers on anything. So I was using my TRICARE and went and seen civilian doctors because I'm like, well, I can't even get into the VA clinic. And yeah, that frustration of not knowing. And then when you call, I think the hardest part, because you've been dealing like 8 months. And I think this is a great part of what we're talking about because you're going through the process now,
Right.
of trying to get an increase, trying to get additional things claimed. So you're going through it as we speak. So it's not like, hey, we're just finding stuff on the internet, talking about it randomly. Like, the good thing is you're actually going through it and we get to talk week to week about, hey, what's the progress? And I think the hardest part, like you said earlier, was there's accountability at every stage. There's a paper trail, whether it's paper or electronic, whatever, right? There's still a trail of everything that's going on, of who's got to do what. And when you call and someone's like, well, I don't know, that's not an acceptable answer. Like, we've just spent our entire lives serving the military knowing that we had to answer for every paperclip we used, and you're telling me you don't know who your boss is? Who are you sending this to? What is this paperwork going to? Like, how do you not know?
Yeah. It's kind of like my sergeant major told me one time, don't tell me what you can't do, tell me what you can do. Okay. That was his pet peeve. Don't tell me what you can't do. How are you going to fix this? And tell me what you can do. All right. Yeah. And it's the same thing. I learned in the government, give them as little as possible, make them work for it. Maybe they'll go away. Okay. Maybe they'll go away and then you can sit there and do nothing because they're upsetting you in your day and stuff like that. I get that. If I could tell you some horror stories of working for the government as a civilian, everybody, if you're a veteran, the horror stories of working in the military, how the red tape and all that stuff freaking works. And if you're a favorite of somebody, hey, you get all the schools and you all of a sudden you're moving up the ladder. But if you're that one guy that says, I ain't going to lick nobody's boot, okay, but you're a great soldier and stuff like that, and you're the one that acts, you're the gung-ho guy when it comes to being in the line of fire, and the guy who's licking boots is, hesitant and stuff like that. It's upsetting that in a time right now of the most transparency of a government right now is being laid on the table. We're still can't give a veteran, hey, here's the layout. Here's what I see. Joe Blow, the tent maker's son, has got your paperwork. Okay. I will contact him so he can contact you and talk to you about your case. Maybe it ain't never going to happen. I know Mr. International's in here. He works in this field and stuff like that. And I don't know if that's possible. I do know that they say, well, I can't give you I can't guide you into filling out the paperwork. But if you go and find, there's a VSO in Henrietta, Oklahoma, and I can give you his phone number. Or there's the DAV over here in Krebs, and you can go over there and give them the answer. Wait a minute, you're the guy or you're the gal, and I can't ask you a question? And they can't answer. No, you can't. I can't guide you any way in your paperwork. And maybe that's, again, like we said about the VA and people working, great people work for the VA. It's the screwed up system and regulations that they have to abide by in order to keep their job.
Well, and Angie, I threw this comment up. Angie just posted it. Imagine the healthcare we can provide if we didn't have to wait on approval first.
Yeah.
Very frustrating. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the crazy bureaucracy of how it all works. Like, and I get, like, right, we need checks and balances. We need to have people being accountable for what they're doing. But when I ask you, like, who's your boss or who's your supervisor, and your answer to me is, well, I don't know. I don't know where this goes. I do this part of it, and then it goes off. Well, where does it go off to? Where, like, are you emailing it to somebody? Is it in a system? And when they don't explain it to you, we've been built and generated, especially if you retired from the military, you were in there to where, all right, there's somebody accountable above you no matter what your position is, unless you've been that lead official, so like in my case, hey, I was never going to be the commandant of the Marine Corps, or the sergeant major of the Marine Corps. So there's always somebody above you that's going to have an answer. And when you go in knowing that we've been taught and mandated to run through this chain of command, knowing there's somebody else, and when they give you an answer, well, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? How do you not know? Like, yeah. And I think that's the biggest frustration and driving point away from veterans going to the VA if they haven't been to it, was when they go in and they can't even get answers. Like I was just talking to my brother the other day. He surprisingly got a 10% rating from the VA, even though he never even made it to an active duty unit when he was in the Army, because of medical stuff. But then it was like he kept trying to go get appointments because he's like, dude, I haven't been called up. I haven't had no evals. He's had no like he just keeps getting a check every single month. And I'm like, well, let it ride. But if you need more service, then you've got to go in. And he went into a DAV office, and like I said, it's just like the VA. It's not the program. It's, like the system is broke. The people working in the system are typically on most cases good, but I remember going in and I wanted to talk to my local DAV at that first VA clinic I went to when I went back home, and I couldn't even schedule an appointment in the office. Like I walked in, it was in the VA hospital. I walked into the DAV and they wouldn't even get, like I had to go to their online or make a phone call to schedule for them to give me information. And I'm like, I'm standing right in front of you. Well, you don't have an appointment.
Yeah.
I don't care about an appointment. I'm in front of you. Your job is to serve me. Like, and I don't ever want to be that, like, all about me type person. But when you work in a facility that is there for the veterans, and I come in as a veteran wanting to receive service, and you tell me that I can't do it when I'm standing in front of you physically because, well, you need to call, you need to. No, that's not acceptable. That's not an okay.
Hey, real quick, Gary Ball, do you have a YouTube channel? Because you look very familiar. I was looking at a channel that they just had surgery at the VA, and I thought it was in North Carolina. I was getting ready to watch it, and then Terry said I had to do some other paperwork on our monetization, and I didn't get to it, but I got it marked because I want to go back and look at it. So I didn't know if that was, you were the one that had surgery at the VA recently. So I just want to put that out. He looks really familiar from that thumbnail. It's
good to see you, Gary.
All that. Yeah, good to see you. Ivy's saying it's shower time. Yeah. Hey, so guys, that's what we got for you. Hey, next week we're going to be talking about a subject that got me in probably some trouble before on the MT Homestead channel that we operate on under. But we're going to talk about the president's address to Congress, okay, and all the BS elementary school crap that's going on. How that affects. Listen, if the people that were in that room at the joint session of Congress were leaders of mind, and if you remember the old thing, Vietnam, my uncle used to tell me that second lieutenants were like really in short demand. You know, if you're in combat and a grenade rolls into your tent and it's a friendly grenade, you're a bad leader.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But we're going to talk about all that. We're going to talk about anything you guys want to talk. It's going to be an open mic next week, and we hope people will come up and talk with us, tell us their thoughts. Don't be shy. We already know who you are because we see your picture. So we want to interact with you guys, and it's going to be an open mic, and it's going to be talking about anything and everything. But one of the things we want to talk about is the elementary school behavior of people who are making $170,000+ a year. That's not including their good Wall Street money that they're making before they on Wall Street. Yeah. And hey, why did the entire one party not vote for no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, and no tax on overtime? Why didn't they do it? I thought, you're the people. But that's what we're going to talk about next week.
Yeah.
It's going to be hot and heavy, and we'll talk until the cows come home. I don't care. You know, if it's a 3-hour live, it's a 3-hour live. So
we'll
guys, this next week, it's going to be good.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Yeah. Hey, guys, remember, be kind to one another. Help somebody in need, and always think of that. Guys, thanks for coming in here. God bless you, and we'll see you on the next one. Any closing words, everybody?
We'll just see you guys. Appreciate every one of you being in here and showing us the love and support, and just keep sharing us out. We want to get this word out and get more of y'all. I'm challenging y'all right now. Somebody needs to come up on panel with us.
Yeah.
Next week.
Yeah.
Let's see it.
Yeah. Don't be a keyboard warrior. Come up.
Yeah.
Tell us what you think.
Get her dead, kid. Come on. It's just a click. Click, doop.
I will talk to you later, Battle Buddy.
Later, brother.